In any social hierarchy, the person who expresses the most emotion is the person with the least amount of power. Most people walk into rooms completely exposed. They wear their anxieties on their sleeves, react instantly to every minor slight, and explain their motives to anyone who asks. They mistake transparency for sincerity, and openness for authenticity. They fail to realize that in the real world, absolute transparency is a massive strategic error. When you reveal your emotions, your triggers, and your immediate thoughts, you are handing the people around you a direct remote control to your nervous system. You are telling your competitors exactly how to provoke you, your clients exactly how to negotiate against you, and your environment exactly how to manage you. You become entirely predictable. And in the architecture of social dynamics, the predictable individual is always domesticated. True mental power begins the exact second you learn to build a psychological firewall between your internal emotional state and your external presentation. This is the art of strategic opacity. It is the deliberate cultivation of an unreadable, hyper-composed presence that completely denies outside forces access to your mind. When you are unreadable, you create an intense psychological vacuum. People do not know what you are thinking, which means they cannot predict your next move, and they cannot find a vulnerability to exploit. This script isn't an academic breakdown of human behavior, it is a direct operational blueprint designed to upgrade your composure, maximize your personal leverage, and force the room to adapt to your presence. Part 2, Breaking the Reactivity Trigger. To construct a mind that cannot be broken by outside pressure, we must look at the neurobiology of the reactivity loop. When someone attempts to manipulate, provoke, or test you in a high-stakes environment, they are launching a direct attack on your amygdala. Their goal is to trigger an immediate, involuntary surge of adrenaline and cortisol in your bloodstream. If they succeed, your prefrontal cortex, the center of your strategic execution, is instantly hijacked by your emotional survival brain. You snap. You over-explain. You get defensive. You make a reactive move that lowers your social status. The elite strategist operates on a completely different neurological pathway called cognitive interception. The next time you experience an unexpected social threat, an insult, or a high-pressure negotiation tactic, you must execute a strict 4-second delay protocol. The moment the provocation enters your visual or auditory cortex, you must consciously freeze your physical expression for exactly 4 seconds. Do not narrow your eyes, do not adjust your posture, and do not utter a single syllable. During these 4 seconds, your brain processes the raw data without allowing the emotional surge to dictate your physical presentation. You force the adrenaline to clear before you formulate a response. More importantly, look at what this delay does to your adversary. When they launch a provocation, their brain is hardwired to expect an immediate defensive reaction. When you give them absolute, unblinking silence instead, their reward prediction model collapses. They panic. They begin to wonder if they just made a massive mistake. By doing absolutely nothing for 4 seconds, you transfer the psychological pressure entirely back onto them. Part 3, The Geometry of Unreadable Posture. Your mind cannot maintain a state of absolute composure if your physical body is leaking submissive micro-signals to the room. Behavioral psychology shows that posture is not just a reflection of confidence, it is an active physical instruction that dictates how the environment treats you. Most people use what is called high kinetic leakage. When they enter a room or sit at a high-stakes table, they are constantly moving, fidgeting with their hands, shifting their weight, nodding excessively to show agreement, and tilting their head to appear non-threatening. To your survival brain, this high-frequency movement is an evolutionary attempt to placate a dominant predator. It screams to everyone in the room that you are anxious, unpredictable, and easily managed. To command absolute authority, you must adopt the framework of low-kinetic stillness. When you speak, maximize your spatial sovereignty. Keep your shoulders locked down, your spine aligned, and minimize any unnecessary hand gestures. When you speak, do not nod your head to seek validation. Let your words stand entirely on their own merit. When someone else speaks to you, do not jump to fill the silence with agreeable noises. Maintain a completely neutral, centered physical frame. This total physical economy sends a powerful, primitive signal to the subconscious minds of everyone observing you. This individual cannot be rushed, cannot be startled, and cannot be intimidated. Your physical stillness becomes a psychological shield that projects absolute, unyielding power. Part 4, The Vacuum Effect, Strategic Opacity and Execution. The ultimate execution of power psychology lies in the calculated implementation of the vacuum effect. In social dynamics, human beings have an intense, hardwired intolerance for unexplained silence. When you refuse to over-explain your motives, your plans, or your background, people will naturally try to fill that information void for you. Consider a high-stakes business negotiation or a competitive social interaction. The average person feels an intense psychological pressure to keep talking, believing that more words equal more control. The opposite is true. The more you speak, the more data you hand over to your opponent, and the more generic you appear. To weaponize the vacuum, implement the minimalist response framework. When asked a question, answer with absolute precision, and then stop speaking immediately. Do not add filler sentences, do not justify your answer, and do not offer polite smiles to soften the impact. Let your final word hang in the air like a heavy concrete wall. The silence that follows will feel completely toxic to your adversary. Their brain will instantly assume that your brevity comes from a position of immense, hidden leverage or superior knowledge. To break the tension, they will start talking to fill the void, rapidly over-explaining their own position, dropping their prices, or revealing their true motivations. By saying less, you force them to compromise themselves. You remain the unreadable architect of the interaction while they systematically dismantle their own strategy right in front of you. Conclusion: reclaiming the sovereign mind. The choice before you every single day is not between being nice or being cruel, it is between being a reactive variable or a sovereign strategist. You can continue to allow the people, the provocations, and the stresses of your daily life to dictate your emotional state, walking into rooms completely exposed and wondering why you constantly lose your leverage. Or you can take the blueprint of applied power psychology, deploy the discipline of low-kinetic stillness, and train your mind to remain absolutely unreadable under pressure. You have the power to turn your composure into an unbreakable fortress that completely neutralizes the emotional traps around you. Reclaim your mental sovereignty, secure your strategic opacity, and let's rewire your mind for ultimate execution. The room is waiting.